from Game Brewer. Hope everybody's tuning in here on Twitch TV for the Learn and Play from Paris. So just checking that people are logging in right now. So we are going to teach you Paris today. So incidentally, I think the reason I got asked to explain Paris today is because I was just there last week, so I guess that makes me the most adequate to explain the game. But all jokes aside, we're very happy to present this game. It's not yet available in retail, but will be later this year. And the deluxe version is also going to be on its way to backers in a couple of weeks. But yes, so this is a setup for 4 players on Tabletopia for Paris. So this is actually a hot seat version. So right now you can only see what's behind the blue player screen, but I can actually end my turn here and switch to other players, but I don't think I'll be needing it necessarily today. So Paris is the creation of famous authors Wolfgang Kramer and Michael Kiesling that are quite famous. I mean, they've made a ton of games, and we're very, very happy and proud that they've made a game with us set in the Parisian capital in the very early 1900s. So in this game, we actually play real estate investors that are going to try and help turn Paris into the most beautiful city in the world. So the World Expo just took place. The Eiffel Tower was built just a couple of years before, and everything is booming in the French capital. And so we as real estate investors are going to try to collect as much prestige as we possibly can by investing in different buildings, buildings that are these piles of tiles that you see right here that show the name of one of the 6 districts that are available in the game. So the game, as you can see, we have the Arc de Triomphe right here in the middle, and it shows 6 different districts from Paris, going from Chaillot all the way to Saint-Germain, that are oriented here basically on their position, actually based on where the Arc de Triomphe really is. And in these districts, as you see, there are 6 available spots numbered from 1 all the way through 8. There's a reason it jumps from 5 to 8, but we'll see that in a second. So the game lasts a variable amount of rounds. There's not a fixed number of rounds like in other games. We just have to wait until something is triggered in the game and before we reach the final stage of the game. The game is actually quite simple. The rules are pretty straightforward, but as you'll see, there's a lot of tactics and thinking involved in this game, which I think is always interesting when you have a simple set of rules, but you have like a really, really deep gameplay available. So just a few elements I'm going to go over before I get into the details of everything. So as mentioned, you have the 6 districts here around the Arc de Triomphe zone that all have a bank here in the end. So when I talk about banks, it's the building indeed that you see here, which shows a place for the different keys that we're going to be using. Every player has a set of keys behind their player screen. So if I go back to the blue player, you can see them right here. You have a number of available keys. That number of keys varies depending on the number of players that you play with. And as you may have noticed in this corner of the table, everybody can collect up to 2 extra keys during the game. And these keys are essential because, well, as you can imagine, these are gonna basically allow us to invest and own different buildings on the board. Then on top of that, you have resources as well. So the resources, there's actually 2 kinds of resources. There's actually building materials. There's wood, there's marble, and there's gold. And then you also have prestige. You have the basic prestige, which is the bronze one. The silver prestige is a bit more prestigious, as you could have guessed. And then the gold prestige is obviously the highest level of prestige you can collect. In the game, when you're gonna become the owner of a certain building, let's say that there is a building on this number 2 spot, you're also gonna collect a resource that comes with it. What these resources do will become clear as I explain the game, but this is another element you need to be a bit familiar with. And then a very important one, on the outside of the board, you see all of these tiles, which are called bonus tiles. So the bonus tiles are an essential mechanic in the game because when you invest in certain types of buildings, everybody has a bonus meeple, which are these funny looking guys with the hi-hats, these four over here, and they're going to be moving around this track in an interesting fashion, because I might as well explain it already now. These meeples, you'll be moving them forward on this track. But the interesting thing is you can choose how many spots you actually move forward on this track. You can just move forward one space, but you could technically already move forward, I don't know, like 11 or 17 or 20 spaces, or maybe even all the way to the end. But the thing about this is that the bonus tiles, I'm going to zoom out and show all of them right here. All the bonus tiles become actually more and more powerful as you progress along this track. But the big but in all this, because you could be like, why not go to the very end of this track when I can, is that you can technically never move backwards on this track. So if you rush a bit too soon on this track, yes, you'll get some interesting tiles, but then you might very quickly reach the end of the track, which is space 30, and once you've reached space 30, you cannot go back and you cannot get any more tiles. So that will limit all the options that you have. And one of the key things in the game is trying to find the right balance between moving, enough spaces forward that you collect some interesting tiles, but not go too fast and not go too slow compared to your competitors. So the game, as I mentioned, is set up in a variable amount of rounds, and the end of the game will be triggered when all of these tiles will have been placed potentially on the board. We have removed 3 of them. There's actually 3 tiles always missing because there's a set number on the board, but 3 tiles are always removed at random. And every turn, every player will start their turn, and they have to place one of these building tiles on the board. It's really not difficult to see where, because every back of the tile shows the district where it will be placed. And then if I take this tile and I'll flip it for a second, it shows me the building of value 8, so that means that I have to place this in Batignolles on the number 8 spot. So that is the first thing you have to do, and once these 3 piles are completely exhausted, we reach a final stage of the game where instead of doing one of the normal actions that I'm going to explain in a second, you can also take what we call an endgame tile. And the endgame tile, let me go to the other side of the board, are these little French flag shaped tiles. And when a player takes the very last one of these tiles, because this will be their action, they just take one of those tiles and that's it. But when this is exhausted, you finish the current round, so you play until the last player, and then everybody gets one more round, and then it's really finished. It might seem like it takes a while, but it actually is deceptively quick as a game. So if you play the game, don't be fooled by thinking that I still have at least so many more turns to go. It can actually go quicker than you think. All right, so as mentioned, so you have this variable number of turns. Let's dive into what you actually do in the game. So as mentioned, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick one of these, a tile from one of these 3 stacks, and in this case I've taken there you go, that I'm zooming it right, it's from the Batignolles district, and it shows you a building of value 8. So in this case I'm going to have to take this tile, and then I'm going to move it to space number 8 right here. So this is the first thing I have to do. This building isn't mine yet. This can be now basically purchased by any player, myself included. But this is one of the things you have to do in the game, just to make sure that buildings come as they go. Then the second thing you're going to do, so this is a mandatory step. The second step you're going to do is actually perform an action. And an action can be very simple. It's either you're going to place a key on one of the banks or on the Arc de Triomphe, right here in the middle. Second thing is that you're going to be moving a key. That's option number 2. And then the third option, but that is not yet available, that will be available later on, is taking one of those endgame tiles. So when that happens, that will be your whole action. So that's it. First available action, this is the most straightforward one, is taking, placing one of your keys. So if I'm the blue player in this example, so I'm going to be taking one of my keys, and I can place it anywhere I want on any of the banks or on the Arc de Triomphe. Whenever I place it on a bank, let's say I would place it here in the Batignolles district, because, well, there is that building already over there, but I could place it here as well. That's absolutely fine. I will get as many francs as indicated. So the francs are the currency in the game, or I should say franc in French. But yeah, you place them there, you immediately collect the money, and that's it. You'll see that the districts have variable amount of money that they give you. So the cheapest one, the cheap district is La Villette, which gives you 2 francs, and the most expensive one is Montmartre, which will give you 7 francs. So the obvious question is, why wouldn't you just, go to Montmartre all the time because it gives you more money than any of the other districts? Is because if everybody does that, you're quickly gonna, have a lot of competition in that district. Also, one thing that's important to notice, you can only place 1 key in 1 bank at a time. If it would be my next turn again, and I would be actually, I couldn't place a key right now in Chaillot, in the Chaillot district right here, because I already have a key present there. I have to move this key to make room, somewhere else to make sure that that happens. The other one that might seem a little bit odd is the Arc de Triomphe itself, so the central place, because it gives you no francs at all. But the advantage, the huge advantage of placing a key there is that you can move that key to any building on any district. So you have a huge array of possibilities from there, whether if I do place a key, in this case in Chaillot, I'm only going to be able to move a key, which is the action I'm going to explain next, onto a building in that specific district. Once it's in a district, a key's in a district, you cannot move it anywhere else. It's stuck in that district. So this was action 1. Action 2, which is the action pretty much everybody's going to be doing most of the time, is moving a key. Now, to be able to move a key, I'm going to actually place a few building tiles now on the board. So this is Chaillot, I think. Yep, I'm going to place it here. I have, let's see, I have a Belleville building. Let's flip it. And this is value 3. Okay, that gives me some opportunities. There you go. Yeah, so I have a building here. So let's say that I have, I'm here in Chaillot, which is perfect. So now moving a key is quite simple. If you move a key, you're going to move it to an available building. This is important. It cannot be owned by yourself or any other player. And so I move onto that building like this. And then the value of the building, which in this case is just 1, is the amount of francs I have to pay. So in this case, I would have to take one of my francs and put it back in the bank, like this. So I pay 1 franc, and now I am the owner of that building. As a bonus, because there is still a resource tile available, I take that resource tile and I'm going to place it behind, not the tile, I'm going to place the resource behind my screen right here. So there you go. So people can't see what I have, so it's a little restrictive zone. So I'm going to get to the resources in a second. But yeah, I become owner of that, and on top of it, so you see that little icon, it shows you a bonus tile. So whenever this happens, I can move my bonus meeple, which I explained earlier, on the bonus track. So in this case, being the blue player, I could move it, let's say, to this location, right, on number 5. I could have gone for number 1, but I decided to go a bit further down the track. So I actually take this tile, I place my little marker there, and this becomes mine. And bonus tiles can be used at any time during your turn. You can also use multiple ones if you'd like to, and this will basically give me 4 francs. So in this case, there's no real reason to hold on to this tile and not use it, but some other tiles are more interesting to use as you're further down the game. So I'll explain the bonus tiles a bit more in detail at the end, but in this case I could just say, okay, I'm using it, so when you use one of those bonus tiles you flip it, and in this case I will get 4 francs from the bank. So let me do just that. I'm going to take actually 5 francs and give 1 back. There you go, because I like my bitcoins. Oops. Put this back in the bank, and there you go. I've gotten my money. So that was one nice step. So then so this is how you move within a district. Now, the other thing, oh, there you go. Need a Chaillot, of course. These buildings are so random. Oh, there you go. So let's say that there's another Chaillot building. This is a value 4, so I'm gonna place it here now. So another thing, when you move a key, you can always move. So if I had a key here, I could move it straight to the value 4 building. But I can also move my key that's on the value 1 building over here on the value 4. And because I move from one building to the next, the only thing I have to pay is the difference in price, because I already paid 1 franc for this one. So I get a discount on this one, if you will. So I pay 1 less franc. That's the amount I pay here. So I would pay 3 francs to become owner of this building. Same thing, in this case, I would become, I basically get the wood. So I place the wood behind my player screen. There you go. And then this building doesn't give me any special kind of bonus. So some buildings will give you other bonuses. The building of value 8, and this is why it's a bit more expensive, so you jump from 5 to 8, this one will cost you wood. This is really important. So when, let's say that there was a value 8 building here in the Chaillot district, I would have to pay the difference in price, so that would be 4 francs, but I would also have to pay 1 wood. If I don't have the wood, I cannot become the owner of that building. That's quite important. This one won't give me a bonus tile. Bonus tiles are only granted by buildings of level 1, 2, and 3. But this one will give me 2 victory points. And the victory points here, this is a little thing I'm already going to mention. They're in yellow, so that means I get them immediately. And this is the victory point track. So you'll move your VP marker alongside this track. However, if victory points are in purple, like this one, or this lilac color, you'll get those points at the end of the game, when the game is over. So this is how that works, and this is for the building. However, you may have noticed that there is this almost little arrow by the bank, and we have these buildings as well, but these are very special buildings. So these are called landmarks. Landmarks don't belong to any specific district. They could be built in any of the districts that are on the board, and they have a much higher value than any of the normal buildings. The buildings go up to 8. These ones start at 10 and go all the way to 16 for the Eiffel Tower. So you can always, at any given time, say, well, I want to actually invest in a landmark in this district. You could invest in it even if you have a key in a bank, or if you already own a building, like, for instance, here I'm on building value 4, doesn't matter. I can choose any landmark that's still available. So let's say that we go for the Opera House, the Opéra Garnier, so I would place it right here. And as you see, it's got a layout that's similar to the building. So it has a value. So in this case, it's 11, which is quite a bit. So moving from 4 to 11 would cost me 7 francs, which is quite a bit. On top of it, I also have to pay 2 marble. So you see, those landmarks come at a really high price. However, why are we investing in those districts? And this is going to become clear in a second, is that at the end of the game, you're going to add up all the values from all the buildings and landmarks that you own. Whoever has the highest total value will get a lot of victory points. Whoever is second highest will get also victory points, but quite a bit less. Usually it's half. And then whoever is third will get also a bunch of victory points, but that will be quite a bit. And in a 4-player game, the 4th one gets absolutely nothing. So it's something definitely worth investing in. Now, the only thing that makes it a bit particular is that you see on the side there is all these victory points as well, 3, 4, and 4. And it shows you this little prestige icon. So this is where the prestige resources come into play. Building materials, so wood, marble, and gold, are used when you construct a building, sometimes, or a landmark. You need them for that. However, prestige will give you extra bonus points when you become the owner of a landmark. So let's say I had a bronze prestige and a silver prestige marker behind my player screen. I could actually pay them up, so I would actually just remove them from the game. You put them back in the box, and this would give me 7 actually victory points. So this is good to know, because Obviously, this is going to give me victory points as is, because usually when you invest in a landmark, probably you're doing quite well in that district. But on top of it all, you can get extra victory points when you invest in them. Now, a thing that's important to know is once a landmark is in a district, you can add other landmarks to that district. However, they always have to be of a higher value than the one that's already present. So in this case, for instance, I could put the value 14 here, not a problem, but I couldn't place the value 10 landmark again. So this would be Le Dôme des Invalides. So this one is worth less than the Opera, so I cannot place it in this district anymore. But any of the other ones would do. So as this progresses as well, you can have 2, 3, 4, doesn't matter, landmarks in a district. But the big rule of thumb is it has to be of a higher value than the other ones. Obviously, if somebody builds the Eiffel Tower, that's the most expensive one. Well, nobody will be able to add another landmark to that district. But yeah, this is how the landmarks work. So these are very expensive because resources are very limited in this game. But you can get a lot of victory points from it. Talking about actually the resources, and this is quite important, behind your player screen you'll see actually a bunch of information as well about these resources, and this is quite important to know. So you can actually purchase and sell resources, building materials, I should say. Prestige can be sold, but sold only. You can never buy prestige tokens. So I could, for instance, buy a marble for 5 francs, or I could sell it for 3. That is up to me. Similar with gold, similar with wood, but prestige can be sold for just a few francs. So this is obviously not the most powerful move, because prestige is worth a lot of victory points when you build a landmark. But sometimes you really, really need money in this game. Not to say quite often. Money is very limited, so you have to be clever about your budget in this one. So sometimes it can be worth actually just selling 1 prestige just to get some money. The building materials can also be sold. The big difference with all this is that at the very beginning of the game, as you may have noticed, it's not like we have like a general reserve with resources. All of the resource tokens, whether it's prestige or building materials, are actually on the board. So the only way to get them is actually by investing in buildings that are attached to them. However, when somebody uses building materials, the building materials that say, I spend my wood, will go back, sorry for that zoom, will go back into a general reserve. So this wood now can be purchased by anyone, including myself, in their turn. You can always buy something that's available. Prestige, however, as it cannot be purchased, is removed from the game. So whenever you use up one of your prestige resource tokens, they go back in the box, they're out of the game forever. You can cry about it all you want, but that's how it works. So that is pretty much how the whole action phase end works. Now, onto those endgame tiles, because instead of placing a key or moving a key, as I mentioned, you can take an endgame tile. So when you do, you can actually go through the entire stack. That is absolutely allowed. So you can actually go through them. You do have to keep them face down. The reason for this is that technically people shouldn't be able to know what endgame tiles are left at any point in the game. So if you want to see what they are, you can actually take them into your hand and look at them in Tabletopia, or you can just flip them one by one, but just quickly ask people not to watch it. But some of these will just give you victory points. Some of these will count as resources, and this is something that is going to come back in a second. But yeah, you can use them whenever you feel like. Same thing, some will give you money. You might as well just cash in the money if you want to. But this will just be something that you can then spend or use in your turn or in whatever future turn. At the end of the game, they can actually be very useful because sometimes they will give you, especially because you can choose one of these 12 tiles, because there's 12 of them. They can give you that one resource that you really needed, or that little bit of cash that you're desperate to get at that point. Because one of the things you also have to realize, you have a limited number of keys, so there comes a point where you cannot place keys on banks anymore, and then yeah, you'll be really limited in your budget. So you'll have to be careful with that. So another key component, before I explain, give you guys a little bit of an overview of the bonus tiles, and this is a really important part of the game, are the end VP tiles. So these are victory point tiles. As you see, they're purple. So that means that you'll get victory points at the end of the game. And these are going to be placed in the districts like this, on this little slot right there, by the players whenever there is a fourth key in one district on a building or on a landmark. So whenever a fourth key enters a district, the player who places that fourth key in that district can take any of the available NVP tiles, takes one of these, and then he places them, or she places it in any district, so they can choose. So let's say that I put the fourth key in the Chaillot district. I could have taken, for instance, this tile, but I can place this tile into another district. Now, why would you and could you be able to do this? Because obviously this will grant quite a few victory points. So this will, the 20 victory points, this is the most valuable tile in the game actually, will go to the player that has the highest total value of buildings and landmarks that they possess and occupy. So you're gonna, at the very end of the game, but I'll explain that back in a second, you're gonna add up all the values of all the buildings and landmarks you own. Whoever has the highest total, in this case, will get 20 victory points, whoever is second goes to 10, etc. If there is a tie, players share those points, and then the next tier is skipped. So that is something that that is good to know. This is a key strategic element in the game as well, because once you see that there are 3 keys in a district, you obviously want to make sure that, if you place the fourth one, that it comes at a very strategic moment. Careful though, again, it's the fourth key. It's the keys that are on the buildings and the landmarks, not the bank. So once it's the fourth key on a construction, so either a building or a landmark, that's when you place that tile. And everything is about timing in this game. So once you, let's say I'm on a bank here in this district, and there's already 3 keys, on different buildings and landmarks. Obviously, in my turn, I'm going to try and time it so that when I move my key, I'm going to place it in a district where obviously I am doing quite well, potentially. And but again, it's about timing. If you do it really early, let's say that I would place this 20 VP tile in this district, obviously this becomes the most valuable district in terms of victory points, so other players are bound to actually invest in that as well. But if you already have like a large majority there, it will probably discourage other players, but they could still go, for 10 or 5 points. It's not a bad thing per se. So these tiles will be placed in the end on the different districts. Could also be that some aren't placed. There's 6 of them and there's 6 districts. It doesn't always happen that all 6 enter the board, but this is also a crucial element in the game. So this is it. So again, at the very end of the game, what you'll do is everybody will have scored victory points based on certain bonus tiles that they've taken, or landmarks that they've built and spent prestige on and all that stuff. So once the buildings are exhausted, you'll move on to the endgame tiles. Once these are exhausted again, you play until the last player, so you finish that full round, and then everybody gets one more action, and then it's over and done with. At the very end of the game, you'll get victory points. If you have certain bonus tiles like this one, will give you extra victory points at the end of the game. This will give you 1 coin for every franc that you own. Normally, nothing is really worth anything at the end, so you might as well just, spend whatever you have to spend. And as mentioned, you're gonna score all the victory points for every district that contains one of these NVP tiles. So once you have one of these in your district, you're gonna again, add up the values of all the buildings that you own, and then you see whoever has the most gets tier 1, second most gets tier 2, third most gets tier 5, and number 4 in a 4-player game gets nothing. So that is the entire game. So quickly before, as you may know, if you have any questions, if you want to get involved into the game, you want to start a Tabletopia session, please go to our Discord server. We are going to put a link here in the Twitch chat so that you can actually find our Discord server. You can look for rooms there. There is a specific Paris Tabletopia room that you can log on to. So it's called Paris Tabletopia Chat, which is really nice. So you go on there, and there you can look for people that want to play the game with you on Tabletopia. If you haven't done that yet, you can always ask us for a little help in the Discord chat as well. We'll help you set up a game. But the goal is that, one person starts a game and invites other players to their specific room. And then if you have any questions during the game, know that obviously the rulebook is always available. If you press here in the lower left corner next to your profile picture, you can click here to get the game rules, and you can find the information you need. But obviously we're there to answer questions as well. So to end though, I'm going to give a quick little overview of how certain bonus tiles work. I'm not going to explain all of them because that would probably take a bit too long, but a lot of them work in very similar fashion, and there's a few key concepts here that you can apply pretty much to a lot of these bonus tiles and even MVP tiles. So there are tiles, the first category is the ones that just give you money and or victory points, like this, just give you 3 coins and a victory point, quite simple. Then you'll have a category that will show you 1 or 2, depends, resources. Now, when you use those tiles, and this is also super important, this is also true for the endgame tile. So if you have an endgame tile that shows you gold or marble, for instance, you do not take a tile. So when you use it, like let's say you use this, you have this bonus tile and you were to flip it to indicate that you have it, then you're not going to take a resource tile, because obviously, again, the stack is limited. You use it as if it were, like the tile itself were a marble token. This is really important because, again, every resource is very limited in like the number of tiles available. That's how the game is designed. So let's say that, I build a landmark and I'm 1 marble short. Well, I could use this bonus tile to use as a marble when I'm using it. There are tiles like this one that just show you, for instance, prestige or indeed a building material of your choice. Same principle, you basically use it as a resource or a prestige or a building material of your choice as you invest in a building or in a landmark. That is entirely up to you. You can obviously also sell them, as as mentioned, resources can always be sold at any time. That is absolutely not a problem. Then regarding certain bonus tiles, there is a category that will also come back quite often, which shows you this. It shows you, in this case, 2 victory points for every building, and it shows you value 1. So there's quite a few of these alongside the track, and I'm going to explain this as well. So whenever you use this tile and flip it, you will get at that very moment a number of victory points based on all the buildings that you occupy that have this value. So this is important to time really well. Whenever you have one of those bonus tiles, you're obviously going to try and work towards that goal to score as many victory points as you possibly can. But this is a fun one to use and can potentially give you a lot of victory points. A thing I will mention, because I'm going to this stack, you will see that some bonus tiles, like this one, there's actually multiple copies of one. You can never, ever, and this is why you flip and keep your bonus tiles, own 2 identical bonus tiles. Now, you're going to say, well, Raphael, how's that possible? Because you only move forward on this track whenever, you want to take a bonus tile. Correct, but there are obviously exceptions, as in any game. There are bonus tiles that allow you to take any bonus tile off the board It's actually number 17 right here. So you can take any bonus tile that you want, but you cannot take one that you already own. Very important. And there's another special tile that allows you actually to go backwards a few tiles. So when you do, again, you have to be careful that you do not take a tile that you already owned. Some tiles like this one will give you an extra key, so it can be really important. Others will allow you to use to also get points for certain bonus tile that you own. So this is the one that goes backwards. So again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but once you get the hang of it, you'll see that it's pretty straightforward. The last one I will explain because that one can cause a little bit of confusion. As mentioned, there's quite a few tiles that give you victory points for buildings of a certain value. So this one gives you 7 points for each building that you own of value 8. 30 is a bit different because it will give you victory points not on the based on the different types of buildings of a value, but of a certain kind. Because there are 6, actually no, I should say there's 7 kinds of buildings, because we've got newsstands, we've got hotels, we've got boulangeries, we've got theatres, all that stuff. So you will notice that all of the buildings have indeed a little category. So this is a cafe, and there's in this case, cafes from value 1 all through 8, and they're spread out throughout the board. The last tile is really based on this, not on the value, because we sometimes have players that keep looking at the value of certain buildings. It's really not based on that, so that is something that is important. But yeah, so zooming out over the capital of France. So this is Paris. I hope you enjoyed this explanation. I hope you enjoyed the game as well. It's a really fun game. Honestly, it's a game I've thoroughly enjoyed helping develop as well, and we hope that you enjoy it. So again, if you are interested in playing Paris on Tabletopia, you can go onto our Discord server. So again, the link should have been posted by now on our Twitch feed. So you can click on that link, go to our Discord server, and then you can basically in the chat look for other players that want to join you. If you haven't done that before, we can always help you set up. Paris is actually free to play on Tabletopia, so you don't need actually to pay to play the game. So it's available for everyone to enjoy at this moment. We hope you do. And that will be it for me. So I'm going to log out. I'm going to wish all of you bonsoir, as they say in France. We hope you have a lovely evening. Not too hot. It is absolutely scorching hot here. I think it might be for a lot of people. And have a absolutely lovely night.